Okay, folks, David here with Quantum Leap, and looks like it's just going to be pardon me, be me today. Corey has some stuff come up for holidays and related to his daughter. Um, but as promised, I wanted to get into this thought leader program, and it's really kind of a teaser of more to come. My plan is to really put this into a book and an audio program as well. You know, the first of my three planned audio programs is coming out in January. And this is probably going to be the second or the third. So, you know, maybe sometime next year, it could be even as much as a year from now. But you know, we're going to talk about a lot of the concepts, and the name of it's Thought Leader. And I just think it's a very timely thing these days. We really need new thoughts, vigorous thoughts. We need to train the leaders of today and tomorrow. And I think that really starts with thought. And if you look at really every major important leader or business leader, they're all really thought leaders as well. So it really starts with what's in our head, how we think, and that's kind of the point of this program. And this program's largely based on Bruce Lee's thought and his life and just who he was. But I've added kind of a bit to it to really fulfill kind of some of the missing pieces, I would say, in terms of, you know, if this was a true Bruce Lee program, it would also include martial arts, but it's taking his philosophy and, you know, with the thought aspects related to it. So needless to say, I'm not a martial arts expert, but I do have a lot of experience with some of these additional things. And what we're going to talk about today are really the creating your mastermind, mastering the written word, winning hearts and minds with the spoken word, building your brand, leaving your legacy. So if you know that these things are important, you're already really in a big kind of leg up to begin with. And then how do you do these things? And that's what I'm going to really introduce these concepts to you today and get you started. And then we're going to return to it. And like I said, I have a full program on how to do more with this. And I have some additional resources. If you saw the post for this, check those books. I put some great books in there, and I'm going to go over those at the end, just a couple tidbits on each, because it's a lot of reading, so you might not want to read. You want to set some priorities, but I did want to read this passage that I read last week because I feel like it really gets the heart of education, thought leadership, and Bruce Lee's thought, and said, Lee's consistent questioning of himself, as well as the assumed truth, more often than not, reveals to us the inadequacy of the conventional position on such matters. It is the questioning that provides the necessary basis for real understanding to occur. As Lee himself said, it is only in the contrast of comparison some new thing might grow. Lee was firmly insistent that even if he were to know the answers, and even if he were to tell them to us, they wouldn't do us any good. In other words, it's in the nature of Lee's statements on life that you have to puzzle out their validity for yourself. To Lee's way of thinking, any answer he could provide is worth nothing to any other individual unless that individual has gone to see its validity as a result of his own independent thought on the matter. This is why Lee's philosophical writings are so successful as instruments for drawing you into your own mind, by extension into the realm of philosophy. And you know, as you see, every great philosopher out there, thinker, you know, starting with, you know, Plato and Socrates and Plato, and you know, Earl Nightingale, impetus for the show. It's really about the process of how you propose ideas, and you don't want to jam things down your student's throat, or you want to kind of set them out there, because it's really about their own learning and reflection that that's how the growth comes. So even if you're right about everything, that's not how you want to approach it as a teacher. And I think we've all seen the teachers and you know, so much of its style. So that's a role model for me and the style for this program. And I'll just start with the first thing, and I'm just going to talk about each of these 5 things, introduce the concept, and then say a couple additional words. So the first is creating your mastermind, and this is something that made a big difference in my life. I know I read that book, Think and Grow Rich, a while ago, but I didn't really understand how to do it until, recently, when the last probably 4 or 5 years, when I got into B&I in the East Bay, and some of the networks here at Oakland and the East Bay, which are great. This concept of the mastermind was popularized in the 1930s with the release of the landmark classic book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Hill demonstrated that this mastermind concept was a key driver behind the major industrialists and movements in the economy, including Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the American Revolution, and the creation of the U.S. steel conglomerate in the early 1900s. Hill defines the term as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose, concluding that no individual may have great power without availing himself of the mastermind. Furthermore, Hill goes on to cite 2 characteristics of the mastermind principle, one of which is economic in nature, the other psychic. The economic feature is obvious. Economic advantages may be created for any person who surrounds himself with advice, counsel, and personal cooperation of a group of men who are willing to lend him wholeheartedly aid in a spirit of perfect harmony. This form of cooperative alliance has been the basis of nearly every great fortune. Your understanding of this great truth may definitely determine your financial status, states Hill. So I think, a lot of folks don't realize that people get wealthy. There's a lot of people helping them, and, they've kind of helped facilitate that. That goes the same for thought leaders. And I think I have a lot more here, but I'm going to stop there and just say a few words about it. But it's really, that this podcast has helped us create a mastermind of sorts on business, development issues, success principles. So, building this network of people who can really show you the way, who can kind of fill in the blind spots that you might have, and also provide you a lot of opportunities, insights, and things that you wouldn't have otherwise. So really, we can't do it all alone. We have to learn how to grow a mastermind. I really think there's a thought mastermind. Another great example are those colleagues of mine from TNT Fitness who have their podcast on strength. And if you look at all their interviews, it's basically the who's who of the fitness community around the world. So you're really positioning yourself as a industry leader just by doing a podcast on a certain discrete topic, and that can create thought leadership. And a lot of great people out there doing podcasts these days. I really think a decline in conventional media, and it's been filled in a bit with the great work of podcasters out there. So mastering the written word, perhaps nothing is as underrated and underappreciated these days as the written word, even though that is essentially the foundation for so much success in business, society, and thought leadership. I would even go so far as to say that if you master the written word, you almost need no other skills or abilities. However, this would be misleading in that your skills and abilities can serve to dramatically amplify your message that is crafted with the written word. If you look at the lives of many successful people, they often arrived, so to speak, shortly after publishing their first book or a series of books. There's something about crystallizing your thoughts and ideas in a book that helps bring about a critical mass of support for you and your authority and the credentials on the topics you discuss. A few things to understand initially about writing. If you might not feel that you're a good writer or could never be, that's not true. If you have ideas, a voice, and a message, you can be good and even a great writer. You don't have to be Shakespeare with all the flair and elegance, and even that can come in time. The ability to write well is nothing more than practice and the ability to continue to find truth and inspiration in others, the world, and then share that with the world through your own unique vision and experience. And a lot of the changes in my life really started to happen when I, refined my writing skills. I've always, um, enjoyed writing, and, I didn't really learn to write well probably until college. But, I think so much of thought leadership is contingent on writing, even business success. So it is practice. And I have some additional resources. I'm not going to go over all of those today, but starting a blog can be a great way to develop yourself as a writer. You don't have to, you're not going to just probably, if you haven't written much, you're not going to likely sit down and write a book. So I think starting, just finding a place to start, and just doing what you can. If you're into fiction, that book Bird by Bird is a awesome book on how to write a novel. So I'm going to leave it there on the written word. I just have to actually share this show a little broader on Facebook. Just give me a second here. I'm my own producer. So okay, here we go. Okay, the next one is winning hearts and minds with the spoken word. So, um, you know, we were going to go over this with Corey, but he's really, a lot of his thought leadership started when he developed himself as a speaker, and it's a great model out there to do public speaking. And then you're seen as an authority, and you also generate a lot of business. So, great way to generate exposure. As powerful as the written word is, it is not compared with the spoken word, particularly when you combine both a well-written speech with its delivery. It is akin to comparing a series of photographs with a movie. There are many different forms of the spoken word: speeches, audible programs, podcasts, and more, but they all serve to bring our written words or ideas to life, to add more energy and feeling to them, and make these concepts even more impactful, particularly when well delivered. The foundation of a great speech is the writing of a great speech, yet that is only a small fraction of what makes the speech in reality. Just a little side note: if you've ever heard Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, he actually totally went off script for a lot of that speech, and it was just kind of improvised from a lot of the things that he had been talking about, and that's how you had that got that great feeling and charge to it. So so much is in the delivery, but I think it's really key to just get started here. And I'll read a couple more things here. So much care and practice is needed to actually translate this great speech in reality, and the words and speech too needs to be written to be spoken as opposed to be read. So I'm a video producer, and I've really went over and over this, and you really have to write speeches to be spoken. If you write it like an essay, and people do that all the time, it doesn't sound right. So you need it to be punchier. And I actually do think you need some improv in there. So I have a great resource I'm going to share at the end on that. A couple, actually. Building your brand, another key part of this thought leader program, pardon me, is really you are the brand as a thought leader. That's the beauty of it. A mentor of mine way back told me that, I am the business. What do you, that you don't really need any other thing to have success, even in this digital age, except for yourself and maybe a couple things like an iPhone or a microphone or whatever. So it's really about you developing yourself. And you don't even have to be rich. You can live, paycheck to paycheck, and be really a great thought leader. And I see and admire a lot of folks out there who do this, and a lot of people that you see even on the news or elsewhere, they're not quite what they might seem in terms of, they're not necessarily rich. They might be well known, but a lot of those people don't even get paid. They're doing it because of their passion. So your ideas are the brand, your vibe is the brand, everything about you is the brand. So becoming increasingly known as the best, yet still improving version of yourself is the most powerful branding technique possible. With that said, there are many ways your brand can be better communicated and more fully stated or revealed, per se. In a world increasingly filled with digital noise and artificiality, realness and clarity are appreciated more than ever. Being real, being authentic, and being clear about who you are and what you stand for is a great strategy to cut through the noise. And that's why so much of this core value work and this internal work, that's what creates the frequency and the kind of feeling of what you say and helps you build the brand, because if you do that internal work, it makes you so much more powerful in terms of what you can present as your brand. And people just see that there's nothing more that people want to be around more than somebody who doesn't pretend to know all the answers, who says, I'm still learning and growing myself. Do you want to be a part of that with me? And I that's what I love about the group of people that I've met here in the Bay Area, and I really see a lot of the foundation for success starts with that. So um there are a lot of ways to communicate this brand. We have so many different avenues these days: podcasting, just video, just photographs communicates a brand. They say every photograph emits energy, and that's a whole vibe, so really I'll leave that there. That's one of my areas of expertise, I'd say. Leaving your legacy, and this is the last one before I go over some additional resources. And a lot of people don't think about before you're even getting started talking about leaving your legacy. But if you look at Bruce Lee, he actually thought about his legacy from his early 20s. He was always and Bruce was great at branding all these things. And I can tie in where he was on, when I write the book, I'll go more into that about how he's the example. But he already knew what he wanted his legacy to be. And I'll just say a few words here about legacy. Whether you're just starting out or already on your way, it still makes a lot of sense to create a vision for what you want your legacy to be. One definition of legacy is the long lasting impact of particular events, actions that took place in the past or of a person's life. He left us a rich legacy of buildings that are both innovative architectural creations and genuine works of art. Her legacy will live on for generations to come. The legacy of centuries of neglect. In short, what do you want to be known and remembered for? What can you create that will then be passed down and appreciated by future generations? This may seem like a tall order initially, but we are each given an opportunity on this earth to create something great that could potentially stand the test of time. I often look back at the careers of some of my mentors or favorite thought leaders, such as Plato, Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, Bruce Lee, and John Maxwell, and consider the rich legacies that they left for future generations. Bruce Lee left a rich legacy in both film and martial arts, but also left a legacy as an industry and cultural leader, as well as a thought leader that is often undervalued and not given the attention that it deserves. John Maxwell will leave a legacy of developing and teaching leadership, a trailblazer in a new field that was known yet rarely understood or effectively taught. So, if you think about your legacy, what you want to be known for, then you can kind of back up and think about how to get there. And with that, I'm going to just leave that introduction of those concepts there and just go into some of these additional resources. For Bruce, I went over this book last time, but Striking Thoughts is with Tuttle. Let's see. This is a great intro. Edited by John Little. Great intro to Bruce's thought. That's where I got some of those key maxims about education, because he was really a teacher as well. That's why He's so good at explaining his thought. Um, this book I had on my promo, How Legendary Leaders Speak. Um, there's nothing more powerful than getting into public speaking. And I think, Kennedy, of course, is really a role model for me. I think he really demonstrates how important that energy and frequency is. It almost didn't matter what he said, because you can kind of feel, the what a lot of what he said. I mean, it's the combination of what he said and how he delivered. Watch some of his speeches if you really want to see a great public speaker. Speech writing. This is an awesome book that was recommended to me by the John Maxwell team when I went through some of their programs, which are great. And it's this book is incredible on speech writing. So check it out if you are into writing speeches. John Maxwell also has a whole audio series on speech writing, a video series, I should say. And speaking of John Maxwell, a new book of his, The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. So this is a great overall thing about, there's just laws out there about how to be a great communicator. And whether, I think the biggest waste of thought leaders are ones that you actually have to amplify your message, and that's one of our modules. So you have to learn how to not only develop the thoughts, but how to communicate it. And this is a great book to start there. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. This basically, a lot of people call this the Success Bible. And it's really like a Bible in a lot of ways. It really set the whole, kind of created the whole industry of success and self-help type thing based on Andrew Carnegie. And the concept of the mastermind is also in here, also about that, number of other things. So if you haven't looked at that book in a while, pick it up. Okay, the other book on branding, this is a great place to get started here. Building a story brand. So I took off my cover of this, so I'm just going to show you Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. How to, if you're going to read one book on personal branding as a small business, pick that up. And then the last one is Be Water, My Friend, with Bruce Lee, written by Shannon Lee. Incredible book, life changing. You can check it out on Audible. I've listened to it on Audible, and you can see how Bruce's thought relates to all these things. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to be back next year with the podcast, and we're going to go over some new stuff, and hopefully go over the new book and program. So happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I regret that Corey couldn't join us, but hopefully that got you started with some of those key concepts, and have a nice day.